It's not just nostalgia. We genuinely had it better. And in 4 points, I'm going to show you exactly why. Identity. Now, what do I mean by identity exactly? Well, when I say the words Black Ops 1, what is it you think of when you hear that? Do you immediately jump to the Cold War? Do you think of the numbers Mason? Do you think of the character Mason? Do you think of Viktor Reznov escaping Vorkuta? All of these incredible sets, the nitty-gritty, how brutal that campaign was. All of these things culminate into one solid identity. And that's exactly where I think modern Call of Duty has failed abysmally. When you think of modern Call of Duty, for example, even Modern Warfare 3, there is no identity. It is so generic in the sense that they are willing to compromise what that game started out with. That when you think back to the game, it's a blur. You actually have no idea what the game was about. It's a shooter, it's a Call of Duty. You sort of get that modern Call of Duty formula. But beyond that, there's no memorable characters, there's no memorable campaign, if there even was a campaign during that time or during that game. And it's such a shame because I think while I agree multiplayer and zombies far overshadow the campaigns of these games, even back in the day, the campaign does so much for the world building, the art direction, the weapons that you expect to be in that game, the characters you expect to be in that game, the enemy factions you expect to be in that game. It is the single glue that holds the whole of that game together. And without it, you become a generic shooter. You become any other shooter out there. I don't want to point fingers at Fortnite, but when I think of Fortnite, I think of literally every character in existence. There isn't a single character at this point that hasn't been in Fortnite. So for me, identity is what holds a Call of Duty up and what makes it stand out for years to come. Choice. Now, choice for me is a big one when it comes to these games because back in the day, choice meant something. The thing I want to highlight the most is actually the creator class system. And I don't want to just glaze the pick 10 system like every other creator out there, but unfortunately it was a really good system. And the reason it was so good is because of how simple it was. Nowadays, a weapon can have 5 attachments on it. And I know in real life you can have a weapon with 5 attachments on it. That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is Call of Duty is a video game. And when you give someone too much choice, too much to choose from, they actually disconnect. They don't really care anymore. I'm guilty of this. I'll go search for the best setup for whatever gun I like, and I'll watch the YouTuber with the most views. And then I'll just stick to that because it's eliminated all that thinking. And when there's 3 different silencers, 50 different optics, 100 different grips, and all of them say different stats, and those stats don't even reflect what it actually does to the weapon, you stop caring. So you offload that burden onto someone else who's already done it for you so that you can actually get in and play the game. But back in Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2, when you chose a red dot, you knew what you were getting. When you chose a silencer, you knew that you're getting a silencer that compromised damage, but it put you off the minimap. When you chose a foregrip, you knew it was going to reduce your recoil. When you chose a quick draw grip, you knew that you were going to aim faster. So there wasn't this balancing act. It's almost like min-maxing in an RPG, and I think a lot of players don't play Call of Duty to min-max like they're playing an RPG. I come back to less is more, and that statement holds so true for me. The less there is to think about, but the more impact it has, the more inclined I am to engage with the system and actually play the game. And it's so obvious what you're gaining and what you're giving up when you make a choice in an older Call of Duty. In modern Call of Duty, I can guarantee you that 80% of the player base is offloading their class building to the YouTuber with the most views or the best class, and they'll stick with that weapon because that's what gets them into the game the fastest. And I think it's a shame because it's an integral part of who you are in Call of Duty is the class you create. And when you overwhelm the player with all these choices, they just completely lose interest, and the choices therefore mean nothing. You actually end up using less of what's in the game because you know that the monolithic suppressor is the best suppressor. A certain foregrip is the best foregrip. And you actually end up not trying out the other attachments in the game. And that for me is a shame because, like I said, it's an expression of who you are trying these different things out. Strategy. Now, I don't mean Call of Duty's marketing strategy. What I'm referring to is in-game, and I know I'm talking a lot about multiplayer here, but let's be honest, multiplayer is probably the biggest component of modern Call of Duty, or any Call of Duty actually. It's probably the biggest component of Call of Duty. What I mean is a strategy in-game. So when Call of Duties were slower, for example in Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2, you really had to think about your positioning. You really had to think about where spawns were flipping. You really had to think about what weapons the enemy team was using to counteract it. If you're playing a long-range map, are you going to go head on and use a sniper because flanking is going to be a lot more tricky? Or you're going to take the risk, you're going to put on Ghost, you're going to try flank to the other side of the map, you're going to push a power position in the map, and holding these power positions also created an objective within the game, or a sub-objective rather. And by that I mean, if someone's doing really well on the enemy team and they're holding down a position, and I'm not saying I miss camping or corner camping or anything like that, but when a genuinely good player is holding down a position in the map, it gives you an objective to get that player off their pedestal, to kill them, take their place or disrupt their kill streak. And that's where buzzkill comes from. And with the modern movement mechanics and the modern spawn system, that has completely fallen by the wayside. Whether it's been proven or not, revenge spawning where you literally spawn on top of the person who just killed you, or the spawns flip so haphazardly that they flip on you. Or for me, the worst is that you'll be holding a position, and because players move so fast in modern Call of Duties, you actually can't react properly, to shoot them. If they slide upstairs, then bounce off the wall, then jump into you, that's really difficult to counteract with good positioning. And I'm not saying that there's no skill in modern Call of Duty. Of course there's skill and there's appeal in modern Call of Duty, how it plays. It obviously has a huge player base. It's still one of the biggest games in the world. But even the jetpack Call of Duties moved slower. I know there were some movement demons on the previous games and they could jump around everywhere, but even in the previous games you could not move around the map as fast as you can nowadays. And I think it has completely destroyed strategy, and it just feeds into what I'll deem as TikTok brain rot gameplay, where you just spawn in, run, shoot, die, spawn in, run, shoot, die, spawn in, run, shoot, die. And that, for me at least, is not fun. I want to be rewarded for thinking of a good strategy. I want to be rewarded for being able to aim well. The recoil in previous Call of Duties was a lot more hectic, and you actually had to manage it. So you want to be rewarded for all of these things. You don't want to be punished just because the game allows someone to slide at 45 kilometers a second. Need I say more? But seriously, my last point on the community is just that back in the day it was so much more engaging, and I'm not talking about rage baiting each other in the Call of Duty lobbies, although that was a truly spectacular time. I'm talking about where people communicated. When I played the remasters recently, people were just chatting in the lobby, and they were even chatting strategy and, help me on B, help me on this flag, that guy's doing really well, we need to take him down. Just that kind of more engagement. And I think that comes from Not being scared to be banned from what you say in chat. And I'm not saying that you should be able to say anything in chat. Obviously, with free speech comes responsibility. Free speech does not mean you can say whatever you want. But I think when you govern it to the point where people are so scared to say anything in chat, you completely destroy your community. And another big portion of that is the disbanding lobbies. Back in the day when lobbies didn't disband, even if the lobby started out quiet, you kind of play against the same people for 2 rounds, you get a bit more used to each other, you form a bit of a rivalry, you're on the same team, then you're against each other. That was fun. That would encourage people to get onto the mic, start speaking to each other. But nowadays with disbanding lobbies, it just doesn't happen at all. It is completely destroyed. I haven't played a modern Call of Duty in a very long time, but back when I was active on Modern Warfare 19, even then, the lobbies were just absolutely dead quiet. If you made it all the way to the end, I want to say thank you very much. Please consider liking and subscribing. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. We're going to be doing this for a lot more games in the future. If there's a particular game or franchise you want me to look at, I'm more than happy to do that. Let me know in the comments. Otherwise, yeah, I'll see you in the next video.